Hello, my name is Hans George Campbell, and today I thought I'd show you guys this new Red Commodore 64 motherboard that I recently purchased on eBay. Okay, here is this beautiful Red Commodore 64 motherboard that I recently purchased on eBay. These come in red, blue, green, and black. I bought the red one because I just love the color red. It's my favorite color. But this board also looks good in blue, so I do plan on buying one of the blue ones as well. I don't know if the guy that's making these boards, if he's going to do one in purple or not, because some of these boards are also being done in purple. So I think purple would also look pretty cool, you know. But yeah. This is the assembly number 250407, in case you're wondering what the revision of this motherboard is. They're often referred to as the 407s, is what these boards are often referred to. This was the most common of all the Commodore 64 motherboards. This was the motherboard that was found in the majority of the bread bin Commodore 64 computers. Yeah. Okay. I will be installing one of these 3M zero insertion force sockets in this location right here. Okay. Yeah, right there. And the reason for that is so that I can easily swap out the SID chips. Okay, because I want to do an episode on the Hans Campbell Show where I test the different versions of the SID chip, and we actually get to hear what each version of the SID chip sounds like, and we also get to see the waveform of each of the SID chips and compare them. Because some of you seem to think that the SID chips, that they sound different, and that you prefer certain versions of the SID chip over other ones. Personally, I don't think they sound any different. Okay, I don't think they sound different at all until you get to the 8500 series, which I think are the best, SID chips. That's just my personal opinion. I think the newer 8500 series, they actually have better tone because their second supply voltage is 9 volts instead of 12 volts, which means that the chips, they run cooler. And because they run cooler, they have a much better tone. So personally, I think the 8500 series SID chips, they are the best sounding SID chips. But most of you will disagree with me, and you'll pick one of the earlier SID chips from the bread bin Commodore 64 computers. Well, anyway, we're going to put that to bed. We're going to test all these different SID chips to see, if they do sound differently. And we're also going to compare, like I said, we're going to compare the waveforms to see if there's any real difference between these different versions of the SID chips. So stay tuned for that exciting episode here on the Hans Campbell Show. Anyway, the only problem with installing this ZIF socket is that it covers up where a smoothing capacitor goes right there. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to take my lead former, just drop that in there like that, and I'll use this to bend those leads perfectly. That's what this is used for. Okay. And I will solder the capacitor onto this side of the board. And this is a small 0.1 microfarad capacitor. And it's small. It's thinner than the thickness of the standoffs. So I don't have to worry about this keeping me from mounting this board. But anyway, I'll solder it onto the bottom side of this board. Okay. And then the top side here, I'll cut just barely above the solder, because you don't want to cut into the solder. And that should be short enough to where I should be able to put this ZIF socket right right on there like that. Okay? And I don't think any of the other, there's going to be any problems with the rest of the components that are around the ZIF socket. I don't think there's going to be any problems. I mean, yeah, if you look at the silk screen right here, it touches, you know, underneath the body of this ZIF socket, but the capacitor that goes here, which I believe is a 22 microfarad 16 volt or a 10 microfarad 16 volt, something like that. I have to look it up on the schematics. But it's actually smaller in diameter than the silk screen. So I don't think there's going to be any problems with any of the other components that are around this ZIF socket. Yeah. Doesn't have to be perfect, Mr. Campbell. Just as long as it's semi-perfect, that's okay. All right. Now, for the rest of the integrated circuits, I'm going to be using these high-quality dual wipe contact sockets, IC sockets. These are the sockets that I recommend that you use for integrated circuits. Do not use machined sockets for integrated circuits. This is so important, I'm going to repeat it. Do not use machined sockets for integrated circuits. I know many of you amateurs out there, you love using those machined sockets for integrated circuits. Don't do it. I'm a professional. I know what I'm talking about. Do not use machined sockets for integrated circuits. They're not designed for that. Instead, use these kinds of sockets right here. They're called dual wipe contact IC sockets. This is what you want to use. Okay? And these are the type of sockets that I'm going to be using for the rest of the chips on this board. I'm only going to have the ZIF socket just for the SID chip. All right, now we're going to talk about the 9-pin D-sub connectors that go here for your joysticks. Okay. This is what they look like. These are brand new. I mean, the ones that I have here are brand new. This is what they look like. Okay. All right. And they fit here perfectly. And then I'm going to use bolts from underneath. We pushed in from underneath. I'm going to use a little small washer here with a lock nut on each side. That will allow me to tighten this down, snug it down without over tightening, because lock nuts don't loosen up. And that's why I love using lock nuts, because you can snug something down without over tightening. And that's especially important for an application like this. These 9-pin D-sub connectors are very hard to find today. They have not been made in decades. And yet, okay, just about all of your vintage 8-bit computers and your video gaming consoles use this style of 9-pin D-sub connector. Okay? Other connectors that are probably going to be very hard to find are the connector for this power supply port right here, and these connectors here for your video audio jack and your serial jack or disk drive jack. I think those are going to be hard to find. So if any of you know where we can find these brand new, please let me know in the comments, because I think all of us that are building these boards would love to know where to find those hard to find parts. Alrighty, let's talk about these 9-pin D-sub connectors. About 99% of all of the PCB mount 9-pin D-sub connectors are of this type right here. You notice how the solder pins, okay, the pins, they're lined up basically with the mounting holes or the mounting pegs. And this is how about 99% of these are. These will not work in the vintage 8-bit computer motherboards and a lot of your vintage video gaming consoles. This type of 9-pin D-sub connector will not work. It must be this kind. Okay, but there are not many of these left. They have not been made in decades. Okay, these are now very hard to find. So I just thought I'd show you the difference between these two. These are the ones that you'll most commonly find. They're all over the place. But not these. These are extremely hard to find. In fact, there's only 4 places on the entire internet that I managed to find these. One place had around 800 of them in stock total, and the other 3 places had 400 of them or less. So that's roughly 3,000 of these connectors left in the entire world. That's how rare these connectors are. They're very hard to find today. And I just thought I'd show you the difference between these two connectors. These are the ones that you want for your Commodore 64 motherboard build. Well, that's it for this video. I just thought I'd show you this brand new Red Commodore 64 motherboard that I recently purchased on eBay. I think it's a beautiful motherboard. And I am planning to also buy the blue one. I think the blue one's also nice, you know. And I'll show that one too. I plan on building this motherboard, so stay tuned for videos showing me actually building this board. Stay tuned for those exciting videos that will be coming up soon. But yeah, if you have not subscribed yet to my channel, maybe you should. If you like videos about vintage computers and vintage computer hardware and software, I think you're going to love my channel. If you like videos about recaps, repairs, upgrades, that type of thing, you're going to love my channel. If you like videos about modern hardware and software reviews, as well as vintage hardware and software reviews, I think you're going to love my channel. If you like videos about gameplay footage, like gameplay that's being captured, okay, Amiga games, Atari ST games, Commodore 64 games, classic PC games. If you like this type of content, you're going to love my channel. So if you have not subscribed yet, well, maybe you should. And by subscribing to my channel, that gives me the incentive to continue creating wonderful content for your viewing pleasure. And trust me, I have literally hundreds of videos in the works that I think you are really going to enjoy. Okay? So if you have not subscribed yet, please do. I think you're going to love my channel. Okay? Anyway, that's it for this video. My name is Hans George Campbell. And until next time,